Have you ever felt like no matter how much you achieve or how much you try to relax, your body just won't let you? It's almost like you're constantly bracing for the next bad thing to happen. If this is you, then you're going to want to stick around. If you said yes to any of the questions I asked you a little bit ago, or said yes to all of them, then that means that you're in survival mode. And most likely, that means that you've experienced trauma in your life. When we experience trauma, what happens in our brain is that our amygdala becomes hypersensitive, hyper aware to that. Therefore, it sort of scans for potential threats. And sometimes it even sends fire alarm signals when there is no stressor. This could be when you experienced what we like to call triggers. You get triggered because of something you remember, a smell, something you see, something that reminds you of something else, and your body either freezes or you want to run and hide. You have some sort of an internal reaction to that. That's similar to what happens to the hypothalamus in your brain. It gets oversensitive and it alerts you to danger when there is no actual danger. At the same time that this is happening, the prefrontal cortex in our brain, it actually shuts down, it lowers. And so our prefrontal cortex is responsible for planning, decision making. That's why it's impossible in those moments that you're triggered to think your way out of a panic, think your way out of anxiety. No, that doesn't happen. Now that's your brain. Let's talk about what happens to your body. Trauma isn't just in our mind. It's in our body and it lives there for years after we're out of those dangerous situations. And remember that trauma isn't just being in abusive situations. Trauma is being in situations in which your mind, your body, you're unable to process what is happening because it overwhelms our ability to cope. So my ability to cope with something that I've experienced may be completely different from yours, but it is still trauma. And when you've experienced chronic experiences of trauma, so repeated traumas throughout your life, this keeps your sympathetic nervous system activated. And this is the fight, flight, freeze, fawn mode. And some of the impacts that we see within our physical bodies are from elevated cortisol levels, which means you're probably not sleeping well, you're gaining weight or losing weight. Maybe you experience mental fog, so not being able to remember things or remembering things sporadically. Increased adrenaline within your body, so increased heart rate, palms may be sweating, your muscles are tense, your breathing is shallow, as well as our digestive systems and our immunity. That gets impacted too. So becoming sick more often, having gut intestinal issues, all of these things are interconnected. So that's why it's important to recognize that trauma impacts more than just the experiences you have. It impacts you from the inside out. When people understand that, I find that they're able to understand that, okay, so it's not a lack of motivation. It's not because I'm not resilient enough. No. And even the research backs me up on this. So people who've experienced long periods of trauma, they have what's called an altered vagus nerve activity, meaning that their bodies struggle to calm down and relax, even when dangerous or potentially threatening situations are done. Even when you're not actively in a state of trauma, you still are internally. And so it's difficult to relax, to calm down. The anxious thoughts, the overthinking takes over. Next, let's talk about why healing trauma can feel so difficult. First, I want you to think of your brain as something that looks for patterns so that it can predict what may happen and keep you safe, right? So it's a good thing. However, when our brains start to play the prediction game, then after trauma, after experiencing trauma, it predicts that there's going to be danger everywhere you go. So for instance, let's say that for you, your experience of trauma is tied to romantic relationships and you've been hurt and abused and gone through trauma, or you've experienced so much neglect or abandonment issues. And for you, that is trauma. And so what does your brain do? It says, okay, romantic relationships, close relationships equals hurt, equals abandonment. So anytime anything even smells, looks, feels, sounds like that, your brain is going to say danger, danger, not good, not good. And this is why a lot of times in romantic relationships, we run when something gets hard or difficult. We freeze and just try to people please in those moments when we feel like somebody is upset with us or we've done something wrong. And if you want me to make a video on that topic specifically, there's a lot we can go over, so let me know in the comments below. Number two, being in a state of survival mode can almost become how you identify yourself and your personality. So if you're usually overthinking and anxious when it comes to certain things, like let's say romantic relationships, then you start to attribute yourself to that. So I'm just an overthinker, I'm just anxious, I'm just have an anxious attachment when it comes to relationships, and that's just it. Or if you focus on your work and your schooling, and that's how you were able to kind of block out the trauma and just focus and go, then your identity becomes that, right? I am a graduate, I am a professional, I am a business owner, I'm a workaholic. It becomes you, but you are so much more than that. It's difficult to distinguish. Next, and this is really, really important, I want you to hear me on this. Rest, physically, mentally, emotionally, that requires letting go on some level. Rest requires relaxation. Rest means I'm more vulnerable, which means if I'm more vulnerable, danger is going to come. Something bad is going to happen if I let go of my identity of being a workaholic or being an anxious person in relationships. You get where I'm going with this? So then it's difficult to learn how to rest. Last one, and a lot of us may not even understand that we're doing this, but we are. So here's what happens. You tend to become smaller, and this is linked to fawn response. So remember, fight, flight, freeze, fawn responses? Well, the fawn is in people pleasing, making yourself small so that you don't draw any attention to yourself. This may have been how you processed and how you coped growing up. Maybe being small, making yourself small, being quiet, not making a fuss, growing up was what allowed you to get out of those toxic environments. Maybe that was the case for you. And so now that is your response. In any and almost every area of your life, you fawn. Healing requires learning visibility, and that there is safety in being seen. I do want to point out, if you struggle with feeling unlovable, I have a video on that. It's right here for you if you want to watch that next. Now that we understand what is going on internally when we've experienced trauma and are in survival mode, I want to make sure that I let you know that you can do something about it. You don't have to remain where you are. One, therapy is going to be really important. Certain therapeutic techniques such as EMDR, somatic therapy, right? This is all going to help you specifically when it comes to trauma, because you're going to be able to tap in to those things that you've experienced, how it impacts your body, your reactions to things, and it's going to be really helpful. Number two, you're going to have to give yourself time to go through the healing journey and the healing process. And it looks different for everybody. If you're not at a space and time where you can or want or are ready to do therapy, then start small. Start with reading books in this area that are going to help you learn about your trauma, how it's manifesting for you, and small things that you can do on your own to work towards healing until you're ready for therapy. Next, along with books, you can watch videos just like this one that will help you understand how trauma impacts you and what you can actually start to do about it. So if you've enjoyed this video so far, make sure to subscribe and like. If you want more videos on trauma and to learn more, make sure to click one of these playlists down here, and I will catch you in the next video. Take care.